Can you see me? I can see you. Welcome to Next Now and Shifts in Space. This event is a celebration of the art and creative minds with the pleasure of working with the emerging artists who are redefining the art world, our students. The exhibitions on display serve two purposes. The first being a window into the minds of 36 faculty and 15 staff, artists who span all mediums from painting, sculpture, photography, spoken word, writing, and performance. The second being a mirror, a reflection of the community we have on campus, our rich relationships, supportive collaborators, and the unending spring of inspiration that flows through these hallways. Like my favorite art term dictates, polymorphous perversity, an artwork's meaning is intrinsically affected by the work shown next to it. Each piece introduces a new story, a new device, a new attitude, and when compounded 36 times, acts as a barometer, a whole picture of the atmosphere of a community. And I am pleased to say that the atmosphere I am reading speaks of breaking boundaries, opening doors, and a forward-facing declaration to lead the charge for social, cultural, and artistic change. This is Montserrat. And to that end, before we get started for the evening, I want to take you on a little tour of the two exhibitions we have. You can see the works of Judith Broussard-Brown, James Lambert, Elizabeth Cianci, Mary Brookie McCoy, Don Paul, Heather Kaplow, Blythe Hazen, Jesse Kahn, Diane Aya, Andre Leduc, Lily Ecology, Bob Collins, Michael Agahawa, Stacey Collins Vickery, Juliana Thibodeau, Julia Seco, we have Greg Orfanos, Nick Mancini, Chloe Wildering, Ethan Berry, Peter Carey, Wilbur Blair, Gabrielle Keller, Moscow Camilla. We have a Lynn Thomas Vickery, a Julia Bunte-Hool, a Richard Kim, a Ron Dorito, Tim Harney, a Kirsten Moran, Martha Buskirk, and a Wilsa Glia. Again, we see over 15 artists on display, starting with Hugo Pellinen, Joe Broderick, Holly Kelly, Beth Price Morgan, Kurt Steinberg, Michelle McGooey, Teresa Skelly, Jennifer Yuen, Ed Hagen, Colleen Michaels, Joe Saunders, Meg Grant, Will Wagan, Ryan Caracino, Nathan Lewis, and Winslow Funyaki. And with that brief overview, I'm excited to introduce our first performer. So this is Nikki Joshi. Nikki recently completed the prestigious Rebanks Family Fellowship at the Glenn Gould School. She holds a master's degree from McGill University, where she studied with Ayun Kwan. She holds a bachelor's degree in Performer Certificate and Arts Leadership Certificate in 2015 John Beck Percussion Scholarship from the Eastman School of Music, where she studied with Michael Barrett. She's a passionate advocate for contemporary music, and in 2019, she was invited to perform at the Transplanted Roots Percussion Research Symposium in Guanajuato, Mexico, where she presented The Yellow Wallpaper, a work of theatrical percussion composed by Matt Curley with text by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. Tonight, she's going to perform Corporo, which is by a French-Slovenian composer, Vinko Globokar, which was composed in 1985 and considered a pillar of experimental percussion. Nikki Joshi.
I recently read this remark. The history of mankind is a long succession of synonyms for the same word. It is a duty to disprove this.
Thank you so much. It's now my pleasure to introduce Colleen Michaels. Colleen's poems have appeared or are forthcoming in journals and anthologies, including Passages North, Nix's Mate, the Patterson Review, Cider Press Review, Barrel House, Modern Grimoire, The Contemporary Fairy Tales, Fables and Folklore, Raising Lily Ledbetter, Women Poets Occupy Workspace. Her poems have been commissioned as installations for the Massachusetts Poetry Festival, the Peabody Essex Museum, and the Trustees of the Reservations. She directs a writing studio at Montserrat College right here, where she hosts the Improbable Places Poetry Tour, bringing poetry to unlikely places like tattoo parlors, laundromats, and swimming pools. Yes, even swimming pools.
Thanks, Nathan. And thanks to everyone in the gallery and all my colleagues for putting together this amazing show. It's a privilege to be next to these great pieces of work. So for my piece, Hand Me Down, it's an installation of poems and garments. And I've been working on a series of poems that are about clothing, construction of clothing, material, fabric. And what I thought I'd read for you tonight is a couple of poems from this installation, and then also two poems that are on the periphery of it, but also address clothing. So my first one is actually referencing this dress. And it's a reversible dress that I made, and it's an apology. Reversible dress, an apology. I thought I could repair it, this bias shift, white as a flag, waving, a pattern passed down, fitting me no more. Why don't you? Ease is just a fabrication based on cutting lines. I worried through my needle's eye, the false and blind stitches and hemming. I'm sure everyone could see you. Like a fool, I practiced altering to make a better fit before I knew how to mend a dress for a child. How to mend a dress for a child. Before I knew to make a better fit, I practiced altering you like a fool. I'm sure everyone could see the false and blind stitches and hemming. I worried through my eyes. Needle me no more, why don't you? Based on cutting lines, ease is just a fabrication, a pattern passed down, fitting this bias. Shift, white as a flag waving. I thought I could repair it. So that's a mirror poem, and the first line is also the last line of the poem, and then it flips halfway through, just like a reversible dress would. And the second poem is not included here, but I think it fits in with this collection that I'm working on. What's interesting about it is that I've read it multiple times. It's an occasional poem for a specific occasion, and I thought this would only happen once, but it just kept coming up. So it's What I Will Wear to the Impeachment. And I'm glad that I won't get an opportunity. Wishing were further, but anywho, what I will wear to the impeachment. Any smart dress in my closet, an investment piece, not grabbed off the display in a current cabinet, but thoughtfully made by a woman who sewed, who understood pattern drafting, labored with open lace work, saw the beauty and value of filigree across the border, knew that without it, the dress would be blunt, stopping at the knee, drab. It will have a facing that is worthy of every person who wears it, before me, after me. Even though you may never see the facing, nor should you on a good garment, it will be working always, supporting, aware of the skin it touches. It will not chafe or bunch. It will not be uncomfortable. It could be a dress that was once worn in a class alone in 1952. It's okay if it's patched, mended. It understands a body's constitution. It is surgical in its proportions, judicious in its embellishments. It doesn't wrinkle or fray when it has had to sit too long waiting. But when it gets up, boy, does it move on the dance floor. Full circle skirt knows how to enter into a room, turn heads in consensus. It has a kick pleat for walking away from nonsense or running for office. Of course it has pockets. It is a garment of foresight with a double fold hem, not really my dress to keep, a consignment piece that can hold its value when taken care of and passed on. We are a country of box pleats and little booties. I have seen the current fashion, cheap fibers and poorly cut bias. It hurts to try it on and it's done with it. I am wearing a gusseted sleeve, a proud peplum. I need an exuberant crinoline. I want a special occasion dress, an everyday dress, a new look dress. The next poem I'm going to read is in the installation here, and it's actually referencing this skirt. And I don't know if you can pick it up on the mic, but it's a very loud skirt. It's a sound to it. That's why it's here. And it came from a consignment shop. It was a historical costume that I then reworked into an actual skirt that I'll probably wear to work when the show's over. But it's the skirt represents more of a sadness than the beauty that you see here. Skirt. I keep you around solely for the sound you make. Gathered at my hips and waist, so much it seems like a family reunion. Unflattering cut, shallow pocket, blue yet gray, a graphite hard on moleskin. Unlined. My mother, now blind, will soon forget my voice and words, but might remember my body as a rustle moving in and out. Like I said, all of these that are here are based on family relationships, and I make a lot of my clothing, but for this one, the poem didn't call for any construction on my part because it was original all on its own. So this is for my daughter, Eliza. Yes, I think that shirt is perfect on you. The hydrangeas on either side of her, just watered, nodded in formal tribute to the miniature Karl Lagerfeld in front of them. Their acidic blue heads embarrassed, as if they were matching gossips just caught, runway models heavy by the waiting around in eternal sunshine. I heard the soft earth of invitation in her voice, noted her sophisticated slicked back hair, a small wet cup, silhouette of yet. Do you like this shirt? She asked, posing in our garden on the first day of 7th grade. I held the camera and cropped those thirsty blues. The shirt was cotton with cuffs and a collar, sure of itself, as if planting a foot and ready to roll a sleeve. I would have named her White Amaryllis in the dead of winter, had it been an offering in the seed packet of baby names. Had I known of her hardiness, I could have forecasted such a bloom. And I'll close with a poem that is also about sewing. It's more about sewing notions. And this always happens in poetry readings. It shouldn't happen on video where the poet is annoying, like flips through. So this poem, as Nathan was mentioning at the beginning of the program, this is about community. Montserrat is so about community and how we connect and those little conversations we have in the hallway that we're kind of missing out on. And this was one of those conversations that started with, hey, I've got some sewing notions in my garage. You want to come over? Thank you, Blythe Payson, for making that offer. And so I took her up on it, and I came home with lots of stuff, but also a wooden hem guide. And it's kind of an archaic sewing notion. Most people don't use it much now, but what it does is you sit it on the floor, and it's a kind of a measuring stick, ruler, they call them rulers, and you can sort of get a uniform hem, so you can go around the bottom of the skirt. So I am the proud owner of one of those. And it reminded me of all the ways that we can be physically broken. So, whereby I am the broken wooden hem guide. Again, in the dream of sewing notions, and already I hunger to be the silver teeth of a vintage separating zipper, not this claptrap, a stiff contraption, my body. I'm sick of biting soundless velvet, crushing indigo pile, spitting out shantung. I do want to be a little tougher tonight, more useful than the buttonhole, showy with my stitches done up in silk floss. In this dream, I get tattoos, French seam badass tissue paper biceps, designed by an alteration genius who specializes in pockets and sailcloth. I sleep like a pincushion thrown in a drawer, so it cuts across the grain to now be this, broken. I want the sleep of satin binding fleece, demand to be a baby on a stuffed red tomato. In the chase scene, every dream has one. I drop the small markings of 16 inches from my cranky wooden frame, drop everything that holds me back, drop bastings to be redone in new red, ditch the remnants in a garment district alley. I dream, I wake, and I work. Like a miracle moth, a hinge oiled, like a lace maker's hardened thumb. They'd never imagined me the maker of something so fine and whose job was no longer to let something down. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Colleen. Our next performer is Ari Montford. Ari says of his art, "This is my exploration of transculturalism." The work is the essence of relational aesthetics. I do not see the work as political, but rather more closely related to a conversation in its broadest and inclusive context. The ongoing work is research to what is Black Indian, and the work created from the exploration will serve as a basis for a dialogue that is intended to go beyond the work. The work is part of a global dialogue which seeks to question the canon by engaging in the deconstruction of perceived cultural constructs, examining oppression. What is Holocaust? There's an effective ambiguous nature to the work that aptly lends itself to the focus of a discussion of the subjugation while still being interested in resolving formal conceptual issues. Finally, Ari wants us to remember it's all about social justice.
Far from the sun. In the jungles of Jamaica. In the jungles of Jamaica. In the jungles of Jamaica. In the jungles of Jamaica, far from the soft white beaches and luxury resorts. Far from the soft white beaches and luxury resorts. Far from the soft white beaches and luxury resorts, there's a small shack with a small garden. There's a small shack. There's a small shack. There's a small shack with a small garden. In the garden, Scotch bonnet and Habanero peppers are grown. In the shack, 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 jerk sauce is made with them. In the mouths of those who eat it, a strange voodoo begins to take. 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 A strange voodoo begins to take hold, consuming the body, mind, and soul in a fiery, hypnotic euphoria. 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 In this bottle is that sauce. In this world there is no sensation quite like it. Pain is good. In the jungles of Jamaica. In the jungles of Jamaica. In the jungles of Jamaica. In the jungles of Jamaica, far from the soft white beaches and luxury resorts, there's a small shack with a small garden. In the garden, Scotch bonnet and Habanero peppers are grown. In the shack, 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 jerk sauce is made with them. In the mouths of those who eat it, a strange voodoo begins to take hold, consuming the body, mind, and soul in a fiery, hypnotic euphoria. In this bottle is that sauce. In this world there is no sensation quite like it. Pain is good. 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 In the jungles of Jamaica.
Thank you. And for our final performer of the night is our dear leader, Kurt Steinberg, who's the president of the Montserrat College of Art. Kurt's creative inspirations have always been grounded in counterculture like DC punk and straight edge movements, as well as the Fluxus and Blue Mountain College. Thank you, Kurt.
Thank you. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge my privilege as a white male, especially in the context of being able to say provocative things for most of my life without major retribution or harm. This stands in contrast to artists of color that have experienced backlash because they make people feel uncomfortable. Artists like Steve Locke, who spoke at my inauguration, and our community colleague, Ari Montford. Both are artists that have suffered because they dared to voice a truth that makes people uncomfortable. I thank artists like Steve and Ari for persevering, creating, and truth-telling. Water, green against the gray. Calling out, a small scream in the doldrums. Closer, look, touching it. Wanting to feel the life. Don't slip. Thorns bearing the marks of wrongful death. Disguised abuse in the coats of life. Harmful words and feelings brought down like a storm of winter. Why do I care so much? Do I care enough? Emptiness, numbness, slowly creeping like ice across the lake. How do I defend against apathy? Mine, others. Blood spilled. Do I know my neighbor? White supremacy coming to us like an ice cream truck with a sweet song. Resist. Water's life, green as renewal. Watch out for the hidden thorns. The gray and the ice consuming us. Fight, resist, do not capitulate. Breathing, feeling things slip away. My last gasp.
And that concludes Next Now Shifts in Space. I hope you've enjoyed the performances from Nikki Joshi, Colleen Michaels, Ari Montford, and of course, Steinberg. Remember that this community is what makes Montserrat special, and it is through this ability that we have to show off and celebrate each other's work that we get to learn from each other and teach each other what it is to be human. Thank you so much. I think we should thank two wonderful people who made this possible.
Oh, yeah.
Can we see you?
Yeah.
This is the incredible Jennifer Ewan and Sydney Gauthier who did everything tonight. So thank you guys so much. Thank you.
Thank you.